back to the tea table. Today was supposed to be a video on Goodra, but I'm going to do an informative small video on the Lost Zone as not everybody's played with it before. So, what is the Lost Zone? The Lost Zone is removed from game area. When a card is sent to the Lost Zone, it cannot be grabbed with cards that recover from your discard pile, as it is an area of its own. So it is removed from the game. It is gone. It's in the Lost Zone, wherever Giratina lives, area of the Pokemon world. Personally, I put those on top of my deck, so you got your discard pile below your deck. I will put it above my deck, obviously. I'm not sure on the official Pokemon stance of where your Lost Zone goes. It could go where your prizes are. Unsure on that one. Hopefully, in the comments, you can let me know. But the Lost Zone's a really cool mechanic. Every time it's come up, there's been some cool cards that utilize it. There's been insane stuff. There's been a stadium that says you win the game, like before. They did not make that this time, but that is okay. We're going to jump in and see some of the cool Lost Zone cards from the set and talk about a little more and how they all work together. So we have the Lost Zone engine. The core of this, I'm going to call it an engine. I know it looks like it's only 3 cards, but they do work together to get the rest of your deck going. It's really cool. Very excited for it. So you got the 3 cards. You got Comfy, Colress's Experiment, and Mirage Gate. So Comfy, you're going to start with that one. So its ability says once during your turn, if it's active, you may look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put 1 in your hand, 1 in the Lost Zone. So you get a card there. You look at the Colress's Experiment, your supporter. You look at the top 5 cards from your deck, put 3 in your hand and 2 in the Lost Zone. Those really lead up to the big card Mirage Gate, which is an item, which is pretty cool. You can only play this card if you have 7 or more cards in the Lost Zone. Stretch for 2 basic energies of different types and attachment to your Pokemon. So what this engine is really going to do is you got the first 2 cards, Comfy and Colress, to power up your Mirage Gate, to power up your Pokemon. Really, just think of whatever. So playing 2 types in your deck, not so hard now. Or if you like Dragon Pokemon, they use different energy. Or Amazing Rares, really cool. Or even if you just have a card that's like Fighting, colorless, you could just put Fighting in like 3 of a different basic energy in your deck. So that'll be really cool. Another thing I will say about the Lost engine and all the Lost Zone cards is, from playtesting so far, sometimes you're just going to get the bad luck of like, alright, I'm going to Comfy. Wow. 2 Palkia VSTARs are on top of my deck, let's just say. That sucks. So that's just a risk-reward factor of all of the Lost Zone stuff, since you can't recover anything. It's definitely really interesting how you got to manage your resources or what your deck is, and maybe you don't go so heavy on one-ofs if you have a good chance of putting in the Lost Zone. Like if you Colress and you need 3, but you got your Radiant Charizard in the top 5, well, how can you really pass that up when you were looking for something else? Because you can only have one of those in your deck, period. So playing the Lost engine is definitely going to have some risk-reward management stuff where you're like, well, do I really need this one? How many are in my deck? You know, have I searched my deck for my prizes? One of those things, but it's a really, really cool mechanic. Another thing I will point out as we look at these 3 cards, if a card has to do with the Lost Zone, it has some really cool stuff around it to let you know. And I just thought it was a really cool effect. I have seen a couple foils on Twitter. They look amazing. So make sure you look out for those if you see them. So we got the Lost Engine core. What do we play it with? Well, I have compiled some of my favorite Lost Zone cards from the set, and we're going to talk about them and how they combo with each other. So we'll start with the V-Stars. Giratina, the mascot, the guy of the Lost Zone here. So his attack is really cool. So it does 280 for 3. I mean, that's pretty good. But the downside is you have to put 2 energy attached to your Pokemon, so not just Giratina, into the Lost Zone. So, meaning the mirror, you're going to have to, utilize that heavily, and you're going to have to say, how many energy do I play in my deck, knowing at least 4, because obviously 2 attacks, I mean the 3rd attack you'd win the game if it knocks out a V, are going to the Lost Zone. So you got to account for, alright, how many am I going to lose with Colress or Comfy? How many am I going to, discard with other effects? Do I still play Ordinary Rod or Training Court to get stuff back? It's really cool. Then we got the cool V-Star power, 1 a game. If you have 10 or more cards in your Lost Zone, you just knock them out. So that's a really sick, that is your reward for putting 10 cards in the Lost Zone. I mean, you think about what you got. You got Comfey, that's 1. Colress, that's 3. If you do it next turn, 4, 6. You attack with Giratina, 8. You do it again, that's 10. Not counting any more Colress you might play, and then you finish him up with this attack. So this is definitely, I think, the high end of what do I do with the last one? Well, you just knock him out. You just knock him out. Period. Nothing weird about it. You just gotta have 10 cards in your Lost Zone, which really you could definitely do if you dedicate your deck to Giratina. So then we move on to Aerodactyl VSTAR. So this one I'm showing more of the managing your deck side of it. So Aerodactyl, 240 for 3, and you put the top 3 cards of your deck in the Lost Zone. So like, this is one of those, sometimes you may have to have turns where like, well, I don't want to play Colress, I got 9 cards in my deck. So if you go like too much through your deck, you could end up in an awkward position, and especially with this, you don't know what you're putting in your Lost Zone, because it's just 3. So what you could do, possibly play a Rangaroo from Sword and Shield, put a bad card on top of your deck, so at least one of the cards, sucks. You're like, well, I don't need this Quick Ball anymore, it's turn 9, kind of a thing. But it does pack a lot of punch with Grant, Choice Belt, all the modifiers we got out there. Really good. And I will talk about its V-Star power. It has nothing to do with the Lost Zone, but it's just a really cool effect. As long as this Pokemon in play, it gains the ability with the effect your opponent's Pokemon have no abilities. That's just a really cool card. We might get an Aerodactyl video later. We don't want to get into it too much right now. Just want to talk about how its attack is perfectly showing how you have to manage your resources if you're going to play a Lost Zone deck, because you don't want your deck, when you're really, really going, to be all the good cards. Obviously, you can't have every good card in your hand, but you're going to have to figure out whether you're playing Switching Cups, a Rangaroo, Rotom Phone, to make sure at least one of your cards is bad. Because you don't, well, I'll put 3 energy cards, like, whatever. I know they combo with other Lost Zone cards, like I said, but still, you don't want to lose too many resources, so you have nothing late game. So we're going to move on to some of the non-V Lost Zone Pokemon, which I think are really, really sick. This first one, I've talked about it with Goon Squad TCG. I love this card so much. We got Sableye. Alright, so it does Scratch for 20. That's it, guys. Scratch for 20, busted. Game's over. But it also has this little attack, Lost Mine. For 1 Psychic, you can only use this attack if you have 10 or more cards in the Lost Zone. You put 12 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon any way you like. So you think about that, 12 damage counters. That's whatever, but it's on a 1 prizer, right? So you put 4 for 4 or 10 to, whatever you want to set up knockouts for later. That does combo with other cards in the set, which would be a future video of mine. But look up the Mimikyu from Lost Origin if you want a cool spicy thing. And in Japan, I have seen this played with the Aerodactyl V-Star. So thanks to the mirror, you're able to play the different types of energy, as Aerodactyl does only take 1 fighting to use its attack, and 2 colorless. So what they do is they start off Aerodactyl, and then obviously they get 10 cards really quick via the Lost Engine and their attack, and then they bring in their 1 prizer, possibly with a Cape of Toughness, 130, and then put the damage counters to finish off the game. So really cool. Also, you could put Sableye and Giratina. If you want Sableye in your deck, you're going to make Sableye in your deck, especially because of the Lost Engine and the mirror. It makes it really easy to put that card in your deck and not really sacrifice anything, which I think is super cool. Next, we're going to move to Cramorant here. Alright, Cramorant, its ability, if you have 4 cards in your Lost Zone, that's it. It attacks for free. 110 for free isn't affected by resistance. I have seen some Lost Zone decks with Cramorant, Sableye, and Radiant Charizard. So like the 1 prize Inteleon box thing, but with those attackers, because you got to knock out 6 Pokemon, and hitting you for 110 turn 2 on a 1 prizer really isn't bad. If you have a Choice Belt, it's 140. I mean, it's pretty good. And you weaken them up, and you would finish them off with Sableye. This is definitely, the easy one where you're just like, hey, only need 4 cards. That's literally Comfey, Colress, Comfey. You did it. Easy to get there, and you don't have to put an energy on it, which is really sick. Our next Pokemon's going to be a card I just love. I put this on here. I love this card. It's a support Pokemon, but it is Bayonet. So once during your turn, you may choose a supporter from your discard pile, put it back in your hand after showing to your opponent, and then you put this Pokemon in the Lost Zone. So I really like this because it just lets you recycle everything, plus powers up 2 cards in the Lost Zone. So we're going here. You got turn 1 Comfey, that's 1. You got Colress, that's 3. Turn 2, you got Comfy, that's 4. You got Chorus, that's 6. You use Bayonet, that's 8. Your Mirror's online. You're attacking with whatever you want. So I love that. I love this card. I've been playing in like Lost Zone decks, like Giratina and stuff. I'm playing like 3 Bayonet. Like I'm going all in. I love this card so much. That's on me. I mean, you could even play like there's a lot of ways to do it. I mean, you don't obviously have to just get that guy the Chorus. So you can put it in other decks too as well. That aren't necessarily Lost Zone based, but you're like, I really want to get a supporter back, and I don't want to play like my Eldegoss because that's 2 prizes. So that is a card you're gonna see all my decks coming up. A bunch of them are going to have that in them, and it's really cool, and it's just super neat. And I think it's a cool mechanic that they did all these cards. There's also a Crabominable I did not put on the list that I believe says when your opponent draws a prize, you actually just put that card in the loss instead. So that one's cooler too. Both of them have their own niche things. I'm interested to see if they find a place in the meta and what they'll be in. Next, we're going to talk about a Lost Zone deck, not based around Giratina or anything, but around Rotom VSTAR and Porygon 2. Real quick, not Porygon Z, just Porygon 2. So you got the Rotom here. Rotom VSTAR for 2 lightning, 80 plus. Put any number of tools from your disc ball in your Lost Zone. It does 40 more for each card. And its VSTAR power, win a game, discard as many cards, then draw that many. So that combos with your Porygon 2. This attack does 20 damage for each tool card in both players' Lost Zone. So an added benefit of this is if your opponent is also playing the Lost Zone, you could just get them. Like, you could just get them because they'll put 2 tools and you did it. So this is really cool. Is this going to be good? I don't know, because at least you have a different attacker and you're not like tool based. But Porygon 2 is like a good mid-game, late-game finisher for you after you use your Rotom. So be on the lookout for that one. I know that deck is going to be definitely played for sure. So finally, we're going to move on to a few more trainers from the Lost Zone mechanic to show you some cool things you can do. So Lost City, when a Pokemon's knocked out, put it in the Lost Zone instead of discarding it. And all other cards attached to that Pokemon are discarded. So it's a very interesting card, because, like, if Lost Zone is super, super popular, do you want to put your opponent's cards in Lost Zone? You know, like, do you want to put their Pokemon in the Lost Zone? Is that something you really want to do? But if you're playing Lost Zone, do you want your Pokemon in the Lost Zone? Like, does it matter? So, interested to see. I think this is a stadium that you could play, so it could be like Galarian Moltres and stuff, so you could, like, pick it off and, you know, stuff like that. But, I don't know. I'm interested to see what can play it. I mean, the answer is anything can play it, but I'm interested to see what can play it. Because, like, let's say you're playing Sableye, Lost City, you knock out 2 Sobbles, they're just gone. Like, your opponent can't get them. So, very interesting to see where this ends up. I am unsure, but I'm still excited to see what happens with it. Then we got Lost Sweeper. You can only play this card if you put another card from your hand into the Lost Zone. So, I didn't put this in the engine because I have not seen it in every Lost Zone deck. It is definitely one you can include for sure. If you want to put this in your engine, obviously it makes sense. It's a hand vac, but to the Lost Zone. Choose either a tool or stadium in play, yours or your opponent's, and put it in the Lost Zone. So the best benefit of this is it gets rid of a stadium. So if your deck is kind of weak to, you know, Paths of the Peak and stuff, and, you know, Punk Boo, definitely a card you could play in your deck. Again, I did not put it in the engine because I haven't seen everyone play it. It's more of a, am I weak to this stadium thing. And finally, we're going to round this out with a supporter that is insane. You can only play this card if you have 10 or more cards in Lost Zone. Fantina. During your opponent's turn, your Pokemon take 120 less damage from the attacks of your opponent's Pokemon V. I think in Lost Zone decks, this is going to be crazy, because it's just going to make the late game, like, wild, right? Like Duraludon VMAX is like, yes, play all these cards that take less damage, I don't care. Because you could just Fantina, cool, Bayonet or whatever, back Fantina. We're taking minus 240 on turns. I mean, we're not getting knocked out. You can play healing cards if you want. It won't even matter. It's really interesting, and I love the card so much. And this card I'm most intrigued about from the new set to see what people put it in. Like, you obviously have to have a dedicated Lost Zone deck, but that's okay. Like, who cares? You need to take those last prizes? That sucks. And the best part is it's just your Pokemon. So it is not your active Pokemon. Or from the defending Pokemon. You know? Which is really sick. Um, because then they can't boss's order around it or anything like that. So I'm very excited to see how Fantina plays out in the meta. So that was the Lost Zone. Those were some cards I liked about it. Let me know below what your favorite Lost Zone card is from the set or what I might have missed there. So our Guja video will be next time. I just wanted to step in and put a Lost Zone video out so people could see more and kind of the inner workings of the Lost Zone and what combos exist. So that's the Lost Zone over there in some unknown area. I'm Josh Hatter. This was the Tea Table, and I will see you next time.